Welcome, everyone, to the October 21st Board of Supervisors meeting. If you could all stand for the pledge. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay, so we do have a few announcements to make here. First off, I do need to mention the executive session that we held on October 17th, which was for personnel. We do need to approve the Board of Supervisor meeting notes from September 16th and October 17th. Bernie, do you want to?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes, that's approved. And a few announcements. Well, first off, I want to mention that Sarah is not with us today, and she's very sorry she can't be here with us. And she wanted me to let you all know that, and she is still recovering. And the other information is that Bernie's not feeling great tonight. But he did drag himself out here. So we're going to try and keep things moving as quickly as we can. And we're going to change the order a little bit. We're going to do the business that has to be done with Bernie. And if he needs to leave, then we can do the conditional use without him. That's correct, Dave?
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. I did want to announce that the West Vincent Township Police Department received a $33,000 grant award. This was for much needed software that, is necessary for the upgrades. And it was written by one of our officers, Justin Fritz, and we really appreciate the hard work that he put into that. Also want to make mention that the township is looking for volunteers for Parks and Rec to help them with planning Community Day, which is scheduled for May 3rd. But it can't happen without a lot of help, and we need to get the word out for that. Also want to thank the company Turn 5 Inc. They're from Paoli, and they, out of the goodness of their heart, decided to donate $300 to the litter lifters to thank them for their hard work. And we appreciate that as well. I was asked to mention that some of you might have noticed with the political signs that we're actually enforcing the regulations of not having political signs on township property, which is basically our parks. So, if you're seeing anyone, pulling signs, that's what's going on. We're keeping them here for them to pick up. We're just asking that they put them, where they're designated to be. And also mentioning that our plastic bag ban did go into effect on Friday. The elementary school kicked that off with a nice art project. And, if anyone has questions about what's going on with that, please do ask. So we're going to skip over to police report by Corporal Kane.
This is the police report for the month of December, or September, not December. We'll fast forward there. There was no training for the month of September. We had 164 calls of service. 7 crimes were investigated. There was 2 arrests made, one for drunk driving, the other for terroristic threats and harassment. 22 traffic stops in the month, and the number of accidents investigated were 6.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now, you will notice that there are under reports where we normally have the treasurer's report and the bill summary list, the manager's report, that we have none. That is because our manager, Jim Wendelgast, is away. So, we did try and get as many bills as we could in our last meeting, and this is all going to be holding on to the next meeting. So I apologize for that. That's very irregular. But I did want to just make mention of that. So moving on to new business. Bernie, do we?
Yes, so I'd like to make a motion to accept the 2022 audit report.
I would like to second that. Are there any questions from the audience? And we also have, I think, Chris Hurd here. I guess that was you. Nice to meet you, Chris. Would you like to make any statements or just want to see if there's any questions for you?
Same questions.
Okay.
With that, just, we're trying to be expedient.
Great. Would anyone?
Are you from the auditing firm?
I am partner with Bailey LLP. We were the independent auditors for the 23 audit.
Okay. So.
I'd ask you to come up if you could for the recording, George. Thank you.
Ask you and he.
Well, Chris.
You are really
Chris, why don't
addressing
you
us.
come up So you can get on the microphone. If there's any question.
So this is 2022 audit, right?
Correct.
Correct.
So there was a forensic audit report that was requisitioned by the township during 2023, covering some irregularities in 2022. Yet, at least from the report I read on the township website, there's no mention of that at all or any of that in 2022 audit. And I'm just wondering, what the rationale is for that.
Sure. I don't know which firm performed the 23 forensic audit.
That was Markham.
That was Markham that did that. Our audit for 22 stands on its own, as does the 23 forensic audit. As far as 22 goes, an independent audit does not, and I don't know exactly what the breadth of that forensic audit was. Our opinion is purely on the 22 financials and the information contained therein.
So as presented to you by the township.
As presented to us by the township, but then audited by us.
Right. So you take what the township presents to you as their books, and then you say these, you perform your audit on that.
Right.
So obviously you have faith that the books have been accurately kept by the township.
We performed testing in accordance with the audit standards and then issued our opinion, which is for 2022 is an unmodified opinion on the cash basis financial statements.
And George, just to interrupt for a second, I would say that the results from Markham pretty much match the findings from Malley as far as the issues with the escrows and how they were being handled. So.
Right. We did issue, there's the audited financial statement. There's two other letters that we issue that accompany that. There's a SAS 114 letter, which is the standard letter to governance. That's issued for any audit, government, nonprofit, for profit. That letter covers, it's pretty cookie cutter, just covers kind of what we were engaged to do, what the results were. The result being we issued our financial statement, which is what we were engaged to do. The last couple of pages of that is a number of audit adjustments that we made as part of the audit. About half of those are related to the escrow fund. We also issued what's called a SAS 115 letter. That is a letter regarding any deficiencies that we noted during the audit. Again, the big thing there that we noted was issues around the escrow fund, accounting, tracking, things of that nature.
Okay, the only reason I ask is that, as everybody in this room knows, all through 23, the reconciliation for all of the township books for 22 was basically thrown out and redone from scratch. And I guess that.
Yeah, luckily, I can't really speak to that.
That's why I
I
asked.
wasn't part of all that.
Right, so you take it as it was presented to you. Right?
Yeah, so I'm kind of taking the finished product, the cleaned up product after that all happened. That's when I came in, and looked at the 22 books and, I was going to get into it more in the presentation. It is a cash basis financial statement. We audited, we tied out all the cash accounts, so we're really comfortable there. As far as the revenues and expenses go, it's not a forensic audit.
Right.
We're not looking at absolutely every transaction, but I will say we looked at hundreds of invoices and receipts to get comfortable. The escrow fund in particular, that was still, and it speaks to our SAS 115 letter, it was still a little bit convoluted, but we were able to sort of get a clean
cleaner report of what was going in and what was going out. And that's how the financials reported. So we were able to work through those issues and get comfortable.
Okay, and I guess, I don't know, are you the firm doing the 23 audit as well?
We're underway on 23.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Full steam ahead.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any ETA?
Well, we just started about a week ago. We just issued this. I wanted to breathe for 2 weeks before
Yeah.
we jumped into 23. We did start that. We sent, unfortunately, Jim's out. We sent him sort of the first round of questions and document requests last Wednesday. I sent samples and some other things just this afternoon. So
So if everything goes according to plan, what do you,
I don't like putting a timeline on it. Look, the typical audit,
this year is what I'm.
I always try to say the typical audit takes 3 months if we're really cooking.
Okay, so
I will say I definitely want this thing done by Christmas.
Christmas present.
There you go.
All right.
I get
I'll
the
hold you
big,
to
the
it.
big question would be, are we going to get it done timely enough to get into 2024 and be back on track? And
That would be my goal.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole reason we try to get done by the holiday, so we're right into 24.
Technically, by statute, you're supposed to have 24 done by April of 25, right?
The DCD report, not the whole financial statement.
Okay.
If you look, most, and I've done this on a county by county basis, most municipalities aren't done. It's impossible. You're talking about an 80-year-old statute that's.
But they're usually done in the same calendar year that April 1st happened.
You'd be surprised.
Okay. No, I wouldn't.
thank you, George. Anyone have questions?
I didn't, see this until
Would you mind just stating your name so that?
Jamie McVicker, Black Horse Road, till just now, and just started reading the very beginning of it. And I see you make reference to the modified cash and modified accrual. And so 2 questions. One is, do you have this has been batted back and forth with different people with the township. Do you have a recommendation? What's the best way of doing it?
Depends on, you mean as far as the basis of account? Depends on need. I have some municipalities that their financial statement is 150 pages. Submitted to all sorts of different federal agencies just because they want to have, all the certificates saying they're doing everything perfectly. It's a full accrual / modified accrual based on government-wide and fund presentation and compliance with GASB 34, which is the reporting model standard that came out about 20 years ago. I have other municipalities that are cash basis. It's really based on, what are your needs for the public? What are the needs for any potential, banks or lenders? It's really based on need. I don't know that there's one that's better than the other.
Okay. And I'm familiar with the idea of a manager's letter. Is that something that you guys do, like making recommendations?
Yeah, the management letter and I don't know how many years ago this was, but I mentioned the SAS 115 letter before. That's really what a management letter used to be. Really, management letters now are only if you have quote unquote other recommendations. The tiers are material weakness, significant deficiency, and then other recommendations. Other recommendations are, it's not really a problem, but you could do it a little better, in layman's speech. But anytime we have material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, those go into SAS 115 letter, which is what we issued related to the escrow funds.
And
Okay.
I guess I can look it up, but were there any significant?
The only thing we issued was the material weakness over the escrow accounting.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
All right.
Thank you, Jamie. Are there any other questions? Okay, Chris, I'm going to ask you if we can vote on a few things and come back to your presentation, because I think we need to get Bernie.
Honestly, we covered most of it in those couple questions, but yeah, I'm happy to come up and just speak a little bit to the audit
Someone
process.
might have more questions if you don't,
Sure.
just a moment.
No, that's
All
fine.
right. All
I think you should vote on.
all in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, and we do have a couple of, these are all related, these next couple of motions, and it has to do with some issues that we were having with our security system with the fire. Correct me if I'm wrong, Christina, they were working, but not connecting to the water. So there was an issue with the provider, and we decided to switch to another provider that we already use for the police. And they're already doing the door, so it's actually going to be more continuous.
And they're also gonna be, hopefully doing the video surveillance for the police, the cameras in the township.
Right, so it just made a lot of sense to do that instead of fighting with this company that wasn't giving us the service we needed at the time. So I'm gonna make a motion to approve proposal from Servitude in the amount of $826.99 for fire alarm system and monitoring service.
Second motion.
Anyone have questions on this? All in favor? Aye. Okay, approve proposal from Servitude in the amount of $2,700.26 for building alarm service and monitoring system. Oh, you second that for me?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approve proposal from Servitude in the amount of $978.96 for bringing office exit doors in administrative areas up to fire code. Bernie, if you'd approve that, second that for me?
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
and all in favor? Aye. Approve bid from Cedar Hollow Recycling in the amount of $73,720 for road materials for 2025, and I believe that, was a sealed bid.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, approve purchase of 2 TDRs from Jeff Butler at 1473 St. Matthews Road in the amount of $64,000.
That's $64,000 for the 2 TDRs,
Is it total?
subject to.
No, that one's clear.
Yeah, but we still have to approve agreements. There's other things.
Oh, there's paperwork that, yeah.
Things have to be done.
There's paperwork that needs to be completed, but we do know that there are 2 TDRs. He is a willing seller, and we are willing to pay $64,000. Do you second that?
Second.
Okay, now I'm gonna have to ask some questions on that one. Does anyone have any comments? Okay, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval purchase of up to 2 TDRs from Dickinson, which is 710 Fellowship Road, up to the amount of $64,000, subject to engineering confirmation of TDRs. And this one, we are, putting that ahead. They're in the middle of a lot line subdivision as well, and they want to do this ahead of it. We need to get the engineering to confirm whether it is 1 or 2 TDRs. So we're agreeing in theory that we are willing to do up to 2 TDRs. We are not agreeing to how many there are, and that is subject to the engineering approval. Bernie?
Second.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on that? Seeing none? All in favor? Aye. And authorize advertisement of ordinance number 210, 2024 bamboo ordinance. And there could be some discussion on this one. I don't know.
We're just authorizing the advertisement of it.
Mhm.
So it'll be advertised at another meeting, in which time the public have a right to appear and ask questions
Right.
about
And
it.
if we get a lot of questions, we can have a workshop on it as well. Do
You're just authorizing
Yeah.
us to place the ad.
you second that?
Second.
Okay.
Do you want, because that affects, part of it changes the zoning code, and we're not gonna have enough time to do that for your November meeting. We'll have to do it in December or later.
Okay, so we want to pick a date for that.
Yeah,
Why don't we pick our December date?
okay, so
Oh,
that's.
that's also going to be, no, Butterscotch is November, right? Let's do that. What is the
What's the
date?
date?
Down handy.
16th?
The 3rd.
The 16th.
Okay. So we'll advertise that for December 16th. And are there any questions or comments on that? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And lastly, and most importantly, approve proposal from Keystone Municipal Solutions for the interim treasurer contract in the amount of $140 an hour for 20 to 30 hours per week. And this is to get someone in, hopefully starting Monday, who's going to be helping Jim with the finances so we can get all of those reports up to speed for everyone. While Keystone is looking for, a full-time replacement as well as a manager for us. Bernie, do you second that?
Second, yeah.
Okay. Any questions, comments from the audience? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, well, we did run through that in record time. Did you want to?
Yeah, just before you
Take
go,
off, Bert?
Bernie, I just need you to vote, two of you to vote to appoint Dana as a hearing officer under the NPC to hear the application for the conditional use for 1414 Birch Road.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
You feel better?
Do you need a ride? You need a ride? Kenny can take the back. You okay? Thank you for coming in, Bernie, when I know you were really under the weather. Feel better. Okay, so I am going to, I guess should I turn it over to you and then we can come back to general comments, or you want to do that first? You feel
Well,
better?
if you want to come back to the
To the
audit,
audit. Let's go back to the
Chris
audit.
can
Yeah,
go if
Chris,
there's
I'm
any-
sorry, we don't want to hold you here all night.
That's fine.
Once again, Chris Herr from Mally. And we're going to give you the floor.
All right, appreciate it. I'll try to be brief. I think a lot of my comments were already covered, but just for the record, my name is Chris Herr, partner with Maley. We were the independent auditors appointed for the 22 audit. We were appointed back in April. We actually got the financials issued right at the beginning of September, so it just took a little while to get in here, but they were issued a little bit over a month ago. This was our first year doing the township audit, so first year is always a little more complicated, just trying to get to know you guys. We started off with a lot of questionnaires that we provided to your township manager, just about processes, controls, how are you processing disbursements, receipts, payroll, how are you managing cash, all that sort of stuff. And then as part of the audit, came in and actually, kicked the tires on all that, reviewed it, made sure everything was working the way it should be. One of the things that we did is we came in, and our office is only about 20 minutes down the road. We ended up taking 7 or 8 giant banker boxes of documents. I think everything related to 23, every report, every invoice, every deposit, everything back to our office and sorting through it there. So, definitely dug deep into the books, especially just being our first year and knowing some of the history of, it was mentioned earlier, the books getting adjusted, being worked on. There was obviously delays in getting the 22 audit done. So we really wanted to make sure that we were comfortable with the books that we put our opinion on. So, throughout the audit, deep dive on cash, confirmed everything with the bank, looked at, your payroll records, hundreds of invoices and receipt documents to arrive at our opinion. Ultimately, opinion on the financial statement is an unmodified opinion, which means in our opinion, they're free of any material misstatement. They comply with the modified cash basis of accounting. There's no scope limitations. We received everything that we needed in order to conduct the audit fully. Along with that audited financial statement, there was a SAS 114 letter that just talks about, our responsibility, which was to audit and deliver an audit opinion on the financials. The second page of that letter talks about significant risks identified, and I always want to point this out. The wording is a little confusing. A lot of time people see that significant risks identified and they go, whoa, something's wrong here. What the AICPA, what the audit standards have required us to do now in this letter is, before we even start your audit, we're sitting in our office, we're brainstorming, what do we want to look at? What do we want to, check as part of the audit? What could go wrong? Not what has gone wrong, not what is going wrong, just what could go wrong. We have 2 risks that we identified there: risk of management override of controls, and improper revenue recognition. We have those 2 risks on every audit we do. Every audit, for-profit, nonprofit, government, doesn't matter. Those risks are existent in any entity. So as part of the audit, we did address those. I mentioned questionnaires and going over processes. We looked at all that's information to overcome any risk of override of internal controls. improper revenue recognition. We tested revenues extensively to be comfortable that revenues are properly presented. So even though it says significant risks identified, that is not a finding or anything as part of the audit. It's just the way we're required to present these things in this letter. We also disclosed a change in the accounting method. Books had previously been modified accrual basis. We converted them to modified cash. It's a little cleaner this way because it's just, here's cash, here's revenues, here's expenses. Under the prior method, some payables were booked, some receivables were booked. It was a little hard to sort of figure out what is accrued, what isn't accrued. And plus, just with the state of the account, that was a conversation I had early on with your township manager that, with the books, going through the adjustments and bookkeeping process, they were that the easiest way to get a financial statement done quickly would be to go to a modified cash basis, which is where we ended up. There's 9 or 10 adjustments that we have attached to the financial statement. Most of those were part of the conversion from modified accrual to modified cash. The other half is probably related to the escrow fund, which, as I mentioned earlier, we issued a finding resulting from our escrow work. So overall, the books, when they got to us, were in pretty good shape overall. The other letter that we issued, I already mentioned it, the SAS 115 letter, which is our findings, it's a material deficiency in the audit. The escrow fund was, in plain English, it was kind of a mess. The QuickBooks file, I think what had happened at some point, the old QuickBooks file was, they ceased using that, started a new QuickBooks file. So there was no sort of good beginnings point there. So in the 22 activity, there was also stuff that was from prior years that someone put in there trying to get the books up to the right end spot, but it wasn't just 22 activity in there. Ultimately, to overcome that, we got comfortable with cash. We were able to sort of find a secondary schedule outside of QuickBooks that sort of summarized what came in and what went out during the year. And we were able to audit that and sort of pull all the numbers together for the financial statement. I did already look at the escrow fund for 23. I don't want to sneak peek 23 too soon, but the 23 QuickBooks file for escrow was much, much easier to make heads and tails of than 22 was. We could at least very easily see what the ins and outs were during the calendar year, which was a big gain over 22. My biggest concern with that, which is sort of covered in here, I'll read from the second paragraph. Further, the township was unable to provide an accurate listing of individual balances held in escrow from payers. So one of the first things I do with any municipality with escrow funds is, who do you owe and who owes you? And there's not a good listing there of that right now. In prior years, there was individual accounts within QuickBooks for like each sort of escrow account, but somewhere along the way, they stopped using those and everything's just kind of going through revenues and expenses. So that's probably going to be a recommendation for 23 too, that at some point, just kind of getting your hands around exactly, by payor, what the balances are in the escrow fund. But that's really it as far as the audit results go. Like I said, we are underway on 23. So moving right along.
Well, thank you very much. We do acknowledge that it came to you quite a mess, and I have to give credit where credit is due. Jackie Gunther definitely put a lot of sweat equity into getting us where we are, and you two working together so well. So I'm sorry that she didn't get to be here to see this come to fruition, but we're glad we're at this point, and we hope that 23 and 24 can move forward quickly. But thank you for all your efforts.
Absolutely. I should mention Jim kind of came in at the tail end too, and he was instrumental in really kind of helping us tie a bow on it too. And he's been great so far with
Great.
23 too. The whole business office.
The office is definitely
Excellent, helping us.
Thank you.
You might have other questions from
Um,
the audience.
we might. Looks like George, no? Okay, just moving. Does anyone else have a question for Chris? No? All right. I think we're letting you go.
Thanks, guys.
I'm just gonna go back to the office to keep working on 23. So,
Quickly, that's amazing.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out tonight. It was very nice to meet you.
You too. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, bye-bye. Do we have any other public comments from the audience before we get into the conditional use hearing?
Just wondering, you have an idea when the preliminary budget will be ready? And I'm sorry if I missed any announcements about this.
No, we did have a preliminary draft budget that's out, and it's very much a draft. There's a lot of things that need to be updated on that. A lot of things have been identified and discussed, but until Jim comes back from his vacation, which he's been gone for 2 weeks now, so, you know, that at a critical time, so we're gonna get together with him when he's back, and I would expect that our November meeting will have a lot more about the budget, if not, you know, even a workshop before if we need to.
And how about the hiring? Any progress or any updates on where that stands?
Yeah, well, we did sign 2 contracts with, actually 3 now, with Keystone. One is for the manager, one for the treasurer, and then also just today for an interim treasurer that we hope to start on Monday. That was the plan. So we'll have someone come in here right away, which I think is actually a better thing to come in, kind of clean it up, get everything the way Jim wants it. He'll work with them. And while they're trying to find us a permanent person, and they'll come into a clean.
Who's Keystone?
That's the executive search firm.
So these are interims.
The person that we're hoping will start on Monday would be an interim. Thank you.
So you skipped the non-agenda item, public comment? Right now.
That's what we're doing right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So question about, you announced that the township is not allowing political signs on township property. Is that a board decision?
No, it's a rule that we've had in place, and it just hasn't been,
So is that a board decision to enforce it?
it wasn't, I wouldn't say anyone came to us and said, hey, should we start enforcing this? But I support us enforcing our laws. So
But do Bernie and Sarah also support that?
they're not complaining, they know about it, so. It
I
wasn't.
just think it's
I
odd
don't
that
think
you,
We actually had a meeting to discuss it, but it's always been an issue of, the thing is that there's always things that are in violation, and we can't follow up on them if we don't
Yes,
deal with
but-
them equitably.
but
So this is
announcing
being dealt
3
with
weeks
equitably.
before an election seems like an odd
Well,
time.
that's not exactly
the
correct.
decision.
It's been in our newsletters.
Well, I saw it in the October newsletter, so okay, that's
It was also
4.5 weeks before an election.
September.
It's 30,
Christina,
technically,
anything to say about
what's on our books is you're not allowed to put anything up 30 days before.
No,
So we put it in the beginning of October. We actually spoke to Tracy about it. We've actually had stuff about signs in previous newsletters as well. But we focused this one to specifically say political signs because we were getting more calls about them.
so it wasn't,
There's nothing changed. It's just being enforced, and we're not objecting to them enforcing it. I did ask that they not dispose of them, that they.
did
save
they
them,
decide to enforce
pick
it
them
though?
up.
And told you they're gonna enforce it? Or, I mean, who runs the township?
Well, I think our office and our zoning and our public works this is their job to go around.
Why did they
I'm
not do
sorry,
it
did you have a
before?
comment, Dave?
I was just going to say, what I'm hearing is it's not the supervisors telling them to enforce it, it is those that are empowered with the
Their
duty
job.
and responsibility to enforce the code, they're doing it.
Okay,
So, and-
do they consult with the supervisors as part of
They
that?
don't need to consult with the supervisor.
I
It's-
did hear that they were doing it. I was like, good, you're doing your
It's
job.
not something that needed to be consulted with or approved by the supervisors.
But the supervisors could tell them to not do it.
We would have to change that rule.
I suppose they could, but they would have to vote to do that and to allow those type of signs on township property.
Okay. All right, I have other questions, but I think I'll let these guys go on. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else has questions?
Steve Sladik, 1420 Hollow Road. Unfortunately, Jim's not here today. I came seeking an update on two projects around my property that Jackie was working on. Well, she wasn't doing much on them, but I was trying to get an update from her before she left, and she did not update us. So one
Nice
is,
try.
yeah, so maybe, I don't know what we can do to get these projects moving. One is 4 years. I've been trying to get the broken culvert on Schoolhouse Road fixed so it doesn't flood my property. So that even in the latest dry spot we haven't had rain in a month, and it's still flowing. And it's not flooding my property because I'm manually diverting it. I'm literally shoveling mud once a week to keep the flow going into a different area, which is what they want to do in the first place. No update on that. I'm wondering, is Jim going to, as the interim manager, just going to do the things that he needs to keep the township going, or is he going to take on the projects that were open on Jackie's list?
No,
He's going to keep these going, so I can
absolutely active, and
I can expect a
heard that this is-
reply from
I don't
him.
know exactly where it is right now. Do you know more than I do, Dave, on that? But I do know
My,
it's in the works.
my recollection is that
July, we met with
township engineer.
engineer and roadmaster, and they were going to come up with a new plan,
But
correct?
And I haven't seen it.
And nothing's happened since
I
then.
understand. So it needs
So
to be,
we can follow. up with
someone needs to
more.
follow up with.
That's
I
probably
would
good for you to
appreciate
do,
that.
Right, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay, since you're in that meeting, so there you hear it.
The second one Jackie committed to was no parking signs on Hollow Road between Schoolhouse and St. Matthews.
I'm aware of that as well.
And yeah, and we're going back and forth on that one. She told me the state had to do it. I contacted the state. State said this township has to do it.
Township road and,
It's a state road.
Here, Let Dave answer the
well,
question.
it's a state road.
It's a state road.
Nonetheless, the board asked me to prepare an ordinance that does other things, but one of the things would be to limit parking in that stretch.
Well, there is an ordinance that makes it illegal to park there in the first place. That's why I asked for the signs.
I don't think
Yeah.
on Hollow Road.
Yes, because it's a state road. It's an ordinance about blocking the road. Because you can't park on an ordinance without being halfway into the street. There is an ordinance. I don't have the number on me, but I can get that for you.
See that there.
So we don't need a new ordinance. We just need a sign.
This is on Dave's plate.
I'm not sure it does what you think it does, so
Yeah,
I looked at it and I'll look at it again.
It-
I thought we needed a no parking along that stretch.
It'd be great if we can get that. It'd be a little more clear.
Yeah.
right,
mean,
we want
the-
it to
the
be
sheriff-
enforceable, and in order for it
Yep.
to be enforceable, Dave needs to properly
So,
prepare
There's a
that.
couple of
Excellent.
traffic control issues, not in that area, it's another area, and we're gonna do one that takes care of some stop signs
Okay.
and that no parking altogether. So that's in the works. In fact, I was just working on it, over the weekend.
Okay,
So hopefully it'll get to the board at the next board meeting.
that'd be great because I've been asking for about a year now. And I can email you that the ordinance I'm talking about.
Go ahead.
You can see, and
Yeah.
because I know the chief's been trying to get people not to park in front of the post office and the bakery for 15 years. So the only reason he's not putting up signs is because he said he's not getting a lot of complaints that it's a problem. Well, people aren't complaining anymore. They're just living with it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? George, did you have something else you wanted to bring up, or we're good?
No.
Okay. All right, great. Seeing none, we're gonna turn it over to Dave and the conditional use hearing.
Okay, good evening, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. So this part of the meeting is advertised as a conditional use hearing. The applicant is regarding 1414 Birch Run Road, Chester Springs is the address. Applicant is represented by counsel, if you want to move up. As we have before, you may not be able to see them all, but behind the sign is a court reporter who is going to take down everything that's going to be part of this hearing. So with Sarah away, Bernie sick, The municipalized planning code does allow the supervisors to appoint one of them to be a hearing officer for a hearing like this. So we did that while Bernie was here. And so Dana's here to hear the evidence tonight.
I'm not feeling that well.
So we'll get to it as quickly as we can. So there's a couple of housekeeping things that we will take care of first. There are some exhibits that will make board exhibits. Board 1 will be the conditional use application. Board 2 will be the list of property owners notified within 500 feet. Board 3 will be the preliminary minor subdivision plan for 1414 Birch Run. And then board 4, B4 will be the borough or the township engineering letter from LTL Consultants dated September 10, 2024. Now, before,
You also have the planning meetings and.
yeah, but it says draft, so
Okay, so you can't.
I'm not gonna,
into that.
yeah, I'm not gonna attach those.
Okay.
So the B2 is the list of all those that received notice of this hearing tonight. They are all property owners within 500 feet. Anyone here that received a notice letter from the township about this hearing?
I did.
Okay, for those that are here to receive notice, I need to ask you whether you wish to be considered parties to this hearing. And you have a right to be considered a party. You just need to tell me you want to be considered a party. And by being a party, you would have the opportunity to ask questions of any witnesses, to present your own testimony. And if you wish, following the outcome, if you don't like the outcome, being a party, you have a right to take an appeal to the Court of Common Pleas of Chester County. So anyone here that received notice within 500 feet, you have standing to be a party. So my question is, would you like to be recognized and given party status for tonight?
Yeah, man.
Okay. Right, and so I need to identify you on the record. Who are you, sir?
Thomas Emery?
And you are at 1240 Birch Run Road?
Correct.
Right, Thomas Emery,
Yes.
Emery. Okay, got it?
I respond.
Okay.
Actually.
Let me move that to the other side.
You want,
We can move
Everybody
that.
has
Put
to
over
see
here?
that Too, right?
Why don't we put it here facing-
That's why I like to.
Okay,
Who's blocking it?
if it works for everybody, just face it.
It won't be referred to for very long. So
Okay,
we were just doing that for purposes of these. I have copies I'm going to provide
Okay.
anyway. So
great.
All right, is there anyone else this here? Yes, sir, your name is?
E-A-T-O-N. I'm sorry. E-A-T-O-N, first name Peter. Peter. 1417 Bertrand Road.
Okay, I got you here. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we do have a printed list if you want
Oh,
that too.
Anyone else that was on the list received a letter from the township that wants to be considered given party status tonight? All right, seeing none. Do you have any objection to those people?
No.
Being given party status? Okay, so you're now parties to this action, and at the appropriate time, we'll ask both of you whether you have any questions and like to give any evidence, okay? So with that, I think it might be helpful.
David, may I also ask, are you admitting as a board exhibit, the County of Chester review letter?
I didn't have that. So you want to do that?
I'm happy to.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't given that.
That's fine.
You want to do that?
I only have the LTL and the planning, which you don't. need.
Why don't you do that as one of your exhibits?
I'm happy to.
And I don't think there's any other housekeeping. So what I'll do is turn it over to the applicant. At council here, be a good idea to describe initially for the public what this is all about, and then you can present your case.
Sure, I will. Madam Chair, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to appear this evening. My name is Stephen Kalis. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Fox Rothschild, and I am here this evening on behalf of the property owner, 1414 Birch Run LLC, and their representatives this evening, Michael and his wife Jenna Lockyer, who are here as well. As previously mentioned, this affects the property located at 1414 Birch Run Road in Chester Springs, Pennsylvania. And specifically, we are here this evening in connection with a conditional use application. That application was filed and received by the township on or about August 20th of this year, in which the applicant is seeking relief from several sections of the township's zoning ordinance relating to disturbance of the steep slope requirements for stormwater conveyance, all of which are more fully outlined in the application, which has been previously marked as B1. This request is tied to a land development application, that application also having been previously submitted by the township, which involves the construction of a single-family home on the property. The formal review of that application, however, is not yet underway, as the township first must get through its conditional use hearing, which is the purpose for which we are here this evening. And while I'm sure there are many other issues that will be addressed generally through the land development process, our request and the testimony that we are offering for this evening is specifically limited to only those sections of the ordinance for which we are seeking relief tonight, together with such further relief as the township deems necessary in order to further the land development process. Mr. Arenado, if there are no additional questions at this time, I'd like to proceed and call as a witness my client's consulting engineer, who I believe will be our only witness for the evening.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'd like to call Mr. Justin Brewer of Howell Engineering.
Yes, sir. You swear testimony. I do. Your name again?
Justin Brewer, Brewer.
And Mr. Brewer, you are in fact employed by Howell Engineering, is that correct?
That is correct.
And in what capacity, sir?
I am the senior principal engineer with the firm.
Okay, and holding that position, are you familiar with and do you have past experience with land development projects and specifically stormwater management practices?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Madam Chair, I'd like to introduce, do you want this as C1 or applicant one as A1, a copy of a CV for our engineer.
Wouldn't mind shutting the door. Getting a little noisy up there. Thank you.
Outlining Mr. Brewer's qualifications. And I would ask that that be moved for admission and that Mr. Brewer be recognized as a licensed engineer and expert in the area of stormwater conveyance and land development for purposes of this hearing.
We'll accept his resume as an exhibit that's moved in. He may be, well, he's qualified as an.
Thank you. Mr. Brewer, are you familiar with the proposed use of the property and in particular the relief that's outlined in the conditional use application?
Yes, I am.
And can you, for Madam Chair, provide a brief overview of the land development project that's being proposed?
Sure. So the project consists of the 3 parcels totaling approximately 62 acres. On the current site, there is a converted barn that's been converted to a single family dwelling, along with a detached garage, driveway, swimming pool, other improvements. As part of the land development plan, the applicant is proposing to construct a single family dwelling on the property to the west of the existing barn / single family dwelling. Associated improvements include a driveway extension and stormwater management to address the increase in stormwater runoff from the proposed improvements.
Thank you. I'd like to mark and identify 2 exhibits, please. We'll mark these as A1, or pardon me, as A2 and A3. And Mr. Brewer, if you wish, and if it would be helpful, these are the 2 exhibits that we had blown up on the board, just so it might be a little bit easier for you to see.
You have a mark? Which
I do.
one? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Brewer, can you identify what that first document is that's been marked as A2?
Sure, that's a blown up view of the proposed improvements along with the existing improvements on the subject property.
And then can you show us the other exhibit that is marked as A3, please?
Oh, there.
And that's what.
This exhibit shows where the proposed stormwater conveyance piping is proposed. To the right there's a faint black line that's representative of the proposed structure, dwelling. And then the red lines show the approximate location of the stormwater conveyance system, two inlets immediately adjacent to the proposed dwelling, then running down to the bottom of the slope where we have a proposed stormwater management system.
With respect to the relief requested in the conditional use application, can you please state the required relief with respect to the township's ordinances, particularly with respect to the precautionary slope and the prohibitive slope districts? And when doing so, feel free to reference the exhibits and what the proposed construction for that is.
Sure. So on the exhibit, the color rendering exhibit, the steep slope runs approximately from where the existing tree is on the right-hand side of the photograph to the left end of the photograph where there's looks to be a dirt spot. That's going to be the toe of the slope, the bottom of that steep slope section. And then referencing back to the other exhibit is a plan view of those proposed improvements and the steep slope area. The gray would be the lighter gray would be representative of the precautionary slopes, and the darker gray would be the prohibitive slopes. And the T-looking line work would be the proposed stormwater piping, and the dashed line immediately south of those gray areas would be the proposed stormwater management bed.
So with respect to the relief that's being sought for this evening, it's limited to stormwater management. Is that correct?
Correct, and the associated disturbances and grading associated with that.
And all of that would be captured in the form of a closed pipe. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That would be underground, correct?
Correct.
Using appropriate stone to make sure that it doesn't rise to the surface at a later date.
Correct.
Okay. And that's all because of the proposed location of the single family home that will be further explored through the land development process. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And you can't adequately capture the stormwater on the top of that hill. Is that correct?
It's being captured on the top of the hill and then being conveyed down to the bottom of the hill to where it will be managed for stormwater rate and volume control.
Okay, understood. Madam Chair, I'd move for the admission of exhibits A2 and A3.
So moved. You're accepted.
Thank you. I'd like to next show you a copy of what we will mark as exhibit A4, namely the review letter issued by the Chester County Planning Commission dated September 23 of 2024. Are you familiar with this document, sir?
Yes, I am.
In your opinion, is the land development plan submitted and the relief sought in the conditional use application compliant with all of the comments and the recommendations in that review letter?
Yes.
I'd move for the admission of A4.
That's accepted. No. This is county review. Right? Yeah.
Madam Chair, under the ordinance, we're required to receive review letters not only from the township's consulting engineer, but from the county as well. So I'm just establishing for the record that those requirements were satisfied and that we will comply with any comments and recommendations that are outlined in that document. Mr. Brewer, I'd next like to show you the document that has been previously marked and identified as B4. This is the review letter that is issued by the township's professional engineers, LTL Consultants, under date of September 10, 2024. Are you familiar with that document as well?
Yes, I am.
Have you read everything and all of the comments and recommendations outlined?
Yes, I have.
Is it your opinion that you will be able to comply with all recommendations that is outlined in that review letter, both with respect to the relief sought through the conditional use as well as the land development plan itself?
Yes.
Mr. Arenado, I have, of course, no objection to that. That's something that's already been identified. Okay. Mr. Brewer, is the relief requested the minimum necessary to afford what's needed to proceed with the land development project for the construction of a single-family residence on the property?
Yes.
And in your professional opinion, is the relief requested to minimize erosion on the property
Yes.
and otherwise satisfy the intent of the township's ordinances in this regard?
Correct.
Madam Chair, I have no further questions of this witness at the time.
I have a couple of questions. So,
Yes.
so I'm clear on, let's see. We're looking at, okay, sure. We're looking at A2. The structure that this depicts at the top of the page, is that proposed new house?
That's the proposed dwelling, yes.
And that's on the top of the hill?
It's on the top of the hill, yes.
And so what you devised here is a system where stormwater runoff occurring as a result of, thank you, George.
Thank you.
Stormwater runoff occurring as a result of the construction of the house will be captured in these pipes
And
and discharged further down the hill.
it'll be conveyed down to the dash line, which is a subsurface stormwater management bed.
So it's captured in pipes and conveyed to the steep, I guess it's an infiltration
An
bed.
infiltration bed, yes. So we're capturing it in the pipes so we don't want to convey that runoff over land, over steep slopes, and minimize the chance of any erosion by putting it into the pipe and taking it down to the bed instead of sending it through a swale or channel down those steep slopes.
So what happens after it infiltrates? Is there an outflow at all, or is it going to all remain within the infiltration bed?
There will be more detailed design to that as part of the land development. But typically on something like that, if we don't infiltrate at all, it would then be discharged from that bed through a level spreader. So to replicate a sheet flow condition, again, to minimize any chances for any erosion.
And any other structures you need to construct would not be in steep slopes?
Correct, yes. Yeah.
Did you see the county's letter where it suggested that some of the steep slope incursion could be, or encroachment could be minimized if the house was located in a different place or the seepage bed was located in a different place? Do you have any comment about that?
So we reviewed that. Touching on the house first, it's located where it is because just north of the house is more trees that we would.
So the top of the page, you could get into more trees.
You would get into more trees. So our steep slope, while yes, it's a natural resource that we want to protect, the trees seem to be a more valuable resource that by keeping the house located where it is, we minimize the disturbance in the existing trees. And we can minimize the disturbance in the steep slopes by having just the disturbances associated with the excavation for that pipe. Whereas if you get into the trees, you're taking down multiple trees. And then as far as the stormwater bed and the location of where it's proposed, and we all know water flows downhill. So that's the house being at the top of the slope. Again, we're at the top of it. There's a ridge line that runs approximately where that house is. If we went to the north side, beyond that, again, you're into the trees. You're removing trees to put in your stormwater management in that location. To the south, we're disturbing the steep slopes at the to get the pipe in to convey that runoff to the bottom of the steep slopes and where we can put in the proposed infiltration bed. We're conveying the stormwater management through the steep slopes and closed pipe to the subsurface infiltration bed at the toe of that slope.
On your exhibit A3,
Yes,
so you said the black line, it's kind of like a square to the right. Is that intended to?
that's
Where
approximately,
the edge of the house is going?
that's approximately the location of the edge of the house, yes.
Okay, so
It's approximately the location of the southern edge of the house.
So looking at A2, it's that area there.
Correct, yes.
So I pointed to an area just above where the horizontal pipe will be.
Yes,
located. Okay.
correct.
All right. And then the dark shaded gray area, is that steep slope greater than 15, 25%?
It's greater than 25, yes.
And then the gray shaded area is steep slope greater than 15%.
The lighter gray is the 15 to 25, yes.
And that's depicted on, or that's shown here?
We weren't able to show any gray scale per se on that drawing specifically. That's the sloped area, yes,
Talking about, okay.
correct.
What is the structure that's in the middle? Like a round?
That's the existing septic tank, yes,
Okay,
for the existing house, which would be behind you in that photograph,
I got it.
yes.
Okay.
Where's the water source? Maybe as well.
Yeah. Other end. Do you have any questions? And I mean, yeah, we'd be part of subdivision. Yeah. Or land development.
That's at the
Okay, yeah.
next juncture. I
Um,
think it's pretty understandable.
okay. Does anyone here of our parties have any questions for this witness?
I do not.
Okay, none? Okay. All right, do you have any other evidence or testimony?
No further evidence. We just request that for the reasons outlined in the testimony and the evidence submitted, that the application for approval of the conditional use be granted.
Thank you.
And I think we have till December for the,
Well, we will render a written decision, but let me just ask a couple more questions about, so for the record. Do either of the parties here wish to present any evidence or speak about this application? They're shaking their heads and telling me no, okay? Does anyone here, anyone else here have any, wish to make any comments for or against this application? Wait, yes, sir.
Question is, the property owner,
Yeah,
Which part? I didn't see who you were, so your name is. He's one of the.
yeah, he's one of the parties.
my name is Grace Levinsky.
he's
I
not,
live on Jane Lane.
Could you say your name? I'm sorry.
It's Ray
Ray.
Levinsky, SLAVINSKI.
Thank you.
and you're on Janie Lane?
Yes.
You're not one of the people that got a letter, though?
Mm.
No, okay. And you want to know whether the owners are here?
Yes.
I believe they are. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think you state your name, right? But yeah, okay.
Michael Lockyer, Lockyer.
Jenna, excuse me, Jenna, Jenna, not here.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, with that, unless you have anything else, we'll close. You have
I just
something?
wanted to clarify that, you know, by approving this, it has nothing to do with the subdivision. That's a completely
Right.
separate entity. I'm not sure when that was.
That was filed.
Needs to be done by,
Well, the review that, so yes, we understand that we still have to go through
Right.
formal land development and subdivision. That review, the application and the plans have been received by the township. However, the process and the review process has not yet begun because we first needed to appear before you folks this evening and then subsequently receive a decision.
okay, and it seems like, your parcels, this house is going across the two parcels, so you're trying to make that one parcel.
Yes, there will be a lot line change, lot line adjustment associated with that
So you
application.
don't have to sell half the house.
No, no.
Correct. We're hoping not.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right.
And
so-
and just again, moving to make sure that all items that were marked and identified are admitted as
They
evidence.
have been admitted.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So everyone understands, in order for them to move forward with land development, they need to get approval of this conditional use. So they know that they can have the stormwater pipes where they want to have them.
Correct.
And once, if the board decides to approve this, then you can move forward in understanding that this is okay.
Right, I think there were some people thinking, are you putting this ahead of
Right.
the process, but you need to know this or you can't move
They'd
forward.
have to design it differently.
Understood.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. With that, we're going to close the hearing. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
And I
Thank you, folks.
Very much.
thank you. So we'll render a decision on,
Keep telling me.
we'll render a
We do
decision.
it at our next meeting or we do it ahead?
think we can do it at our next meeting, so our November 18th meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
That one would be.
Assuming Tommy can't make the transcript.
That'll be it.
Have it tomorrow? Tomorrow?
It won't take you too long.
Okay, all right, so the hearing is concluded, the meeting's
Yeah,
back to you.
I just, I thank everyone for this very unconventional agenda that we had today and helping to get Bernie out of here who wasn't feeling well. And I apologize again that we didn't have Sarah. So is there anyone else who had any comments that was missed or? We good? Seeing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you
Very much.
very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Nice-
Thank you. As well. Happy